Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Jordan. I'm the school board chair. We're going to open up our public hearing for our proposed budget momentarily. Just wanted to let you know the school board earlier had an additional work session. We had a previous work session last week. All of these work sessions are live streamed and they're available on YouTube and also as part of the board docs as part of the North Public Schools website. So if there's anything that you would like to go back and observe the conversation that the superintendent and the board have had regarding the budget, just to let you know those things are online. At any point in time, you can also email the school board clerk or email school board members, and we can also connect you if you have any needs in terms of presentations that we've received as well. What we're going to do tonight is we will begin with a presentation from the administration. I believe Ms. Rhonda Ingram, our Chief Financial and Operations Officer, is going to open up and give a presentation, which is why you have the screen there. After that, we'll raise the screen. The school board will come on stage so that everyone will have an opportunity to observe us and give us an opportunity to observe you. We'll then call individuals to the microphone. Some individuals signed up online earlier, others have signed up tonight. We will provide an opportunity for each person to have 3 minutes to share whatever thoughts that you have regarding the proposed budget or areas where you feel that we need to give attention. I just want to reinforce that tonight is really focused on the budget. We have a business meeting next week on the 21st, and at that time we'll also have additional opportunity for you to comment on the budget, but also at our business meeting is when we have comment time for any other agenda or non-agenda items. So tonight we ask if you would restrict your comments to focus on the budget, and next week if you have other issues that you'd like to bring forward to the board outside of the budget, then we also have an opportunity for you to do that at our meeting next week. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Ingram and allow her to come forward and share the presentation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Rhonda Ingram, the Chief Financial and Operations Officer for Norfolk Public Schools, and tonight I will give you a brief overview highlighting the school board superintendent's proposed budget that was presented to the school board last Wednesday night. As always, we always like to start off with what are the school boards and division priorities. So that is listed for you in the front of this presentation. And these are the priorities that the school board has set, I believe, a couple of years ago, and we're still using those guiding forces. Behind that, oops, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. Behind that is the work that we have been undergoing under the leadership of Dr. Boone for the last year and a half, 2 years, defining the theory of action for Norfolk Public Schools. And basically, it is our promise to the students, the parents, and the community of our commitment in ensuring that all the students of Norfolk Public Schools will be able to maximize their individual potential, maximize skills for lifelong learning, and successfully contribute to a global society. All personnel will intentionally facilitate an environment that supports exemplary and innovative teaching and learning opportunities in every school, in every classroom, every day, for every student, no exceptions. That's our promise, and that has been our guiding force of the work this year, and also it guides us through what is included in the superintendent's proposed budget. The funding priorities for fiscal year 2019 is to continue the phase-in of the pay and compensation study. Last year, we went through a compensation study, and we implemented this year the first phase. So this year, we're implementing phase 2. We are also adding grade 8 to the Southside STEM Academy as Campostella. We're continuing to restore state-mandated instructional technology resource teacher positions. We have funding to support technology replacement with the use of ERate funding, funding to support behavioral intervention and support programs, and funding to support facilities repair and maintenance needs. The superintendent proposed budget is based on the governor's proposed budget that was issued in December of 2017. It is also based on our projected ADM, which is a decrease of 555 students for next year. So our state funding is $192.6 million we are projecting. Under the city revenue, we're highlighting this year's of $121 million, and that is because in the current year's budget, the city gave us a one-time appropriation of $3 million. For next year, for 2017, we are requesting that that one-time money becomes a part of our regular allocation, plus give us an additional $3 million. So our total proposed budget revenue for next year is $329.3 million. This slide shows you a quick representation that our budget is funded 58.5% from state monies, 38.8% from the city. We get some federal dollars of $5.7 million and other miscellaneous revenue of $3.4 million. What does this budget support? Again, I'm going to give you a little bit more detailed information on compensation and benefits. At phase 2 of our compensation study, we are proposing to increase the teacher starting pay up to $44,000. Then that would, I'm sorry, one too many. There we go, thank you. That would make us number 2 behind Virginia Beach in starting teacher salary for next year. We are also proposing to increase the long-term substitute daily rate. We are also increasing the bus driver starting hourly rate. This month, we gave the bus drivers increase in salary because of the difficulty we are having in retaining and obtaining bus drivers. So we are trying to increase their salary rate. If this budget is approved, when this budget is approved, our bus drivers starting salary will be number 1, I believe, in the area. So we are hoping that will help us to recruit bus drivers and then to keep them here once we have trained them with their CDL license, and then they will provide services for Norfolk Public Schools. We are also providing incentives for our hard-to-staff schools. As you know, there is a state and national shortage on teachers, and we are having difficulty sometimes in obtaining teachers. So we are proposing in the budget to provide an incentive, and especially to help our hard-to-staff schools. Our health insurance premium that's included in this budget is a 2% increase over the current year. And that is to be shared between both the employer and the employee. We are also proposing to have behavioral specialists and elementary in-school suspension monitors. Last year, we had part-time dollars in our budget to provide support to the schools, and what we're proposing for next year is to have full-time positions, and we're going to put those in schools based on their number of student enrollment. And those that do not get a full-time position will still continue to receive part-time dollars to help support in-school suspension. Under our staffing changes, staffing reductions due to enrollment loss. Earlier, I shared with you that we're projected to lose 555 students. In this budget, we're proposing to decrease approximately 15 positions due to declining enrollment. Now, these positions will be absorbed because currently we have positions that are filled with long-term subs. So by reducing 15 positions, we will not be letting go of teaching staff for the operating budget. In the governor's proposed budget, Norfolk Public Schools, funding for preschool slots decreased 105 slots for preschool education for our 4-year-olds. What we're proposing is to add, that equates to 6 classrooms, I'm sorry. What we are proposing in the budget is to maintain 3 of those classrooms, but then provide support for non-state funded local option, which means the current preschool program entry has a income condition to it, whether or not you can attend preschool. What we're proposing to do is pretty much eliminate or modify that version, so now we can accept more students into a preschool program. So we will have the state funding and non-state funded positions. Included in the budget are arts teachers to support the STEAM program at Boogity Washington High School. We have teachers in there for grade 8 at Campostella, this school. We're also phasing in another athletic trainer. We're currently getting services through Old Dominion University. They are phasing out their athletic program, so we're trying to phase in having our own staff to support our athletes. So we will be bringing one more position on into the operating budget. Instructional Technology resource teachers, which I spoke to you about earlier. If you recall, about 3 or 4 years ago, we began phasing those positions back into the budget, and this was put us up to about 25 positions. We required to have 28, so next year we're hoping to finish that phase in. We have money in the budget to support part-time medical advisor. Now that the nurses are part of our staff, we need to have that extra support of medical advisors for our nursing staff. We have public relation position and transportations. It's basically we are repurposing some positions within our existing staff to better utilize those to support these areas. We have money in our budget to support technology, supported by the ERate. The ERate is a federal program wherein we can buy technology equipment for 20% of the cost. So we have funding in our operating budget to complete some infrastructure for all of our schools. This 20% is roughly $842,000, but will allow us to purchase approximately $2.6 million of technology equipment for our schools. And then we also have funding to support building repairs and maintenance. This slide is giving you a little bit more detailed information of our pay and comp study. I had mentioned earlier that we are proposing to raise the beginning teacher salary from $43,622 to $44,000. We are proposing to increase the beginning steps. Usually in the beginning of our salary scale, the percentage between one step and another is not as much as some of the other steps, so we are phasing in increasing those as well. We are proposing to provide a salary step increase for all positions, and this salary increase depends on the current placement a teacher is on the scale. If you see here, the average teacher salary is 3.3%, which ranges from 1% to 4.4%. Administrative average increases is 3.2%, which ranges from 0.9% to 3.6%. Support positions, average increase 3.3%, which ranges from 1% to 4.1%. And we're proposing the average increase for our bus drivers to be 6.2%. That will put us the top in the region. The expenditures, this is broken down by major categories. Our budget is about 85% personnel costs because of the nature of our business. So here it shows you that salaries and benefits and other costs, of our $329.3 million budget, 85% is that on our staff. This is just another picture so you can see from the pie chart that if you look at the blue and the orange, that's the 85%, and then we have $49.2 million to go towards the other operating expenses of the district. What's left to do is basically talking about what else is we still need to do for the district. We are putting forth a budget that we feel is what we need to do right now, but our work is never done. So in addition, ongoing, we're looking at completing the comp study with the phase-in. We have the new CTE high school. We are currently reviewing our specialty programs and seeing what those additional needs are. Increasing our in-school suspension monitors. Our hope is to have a monitor in every school. We're going to do the final phase-in of the instructional technology resource positions. We need funding to replace our bus and white fleets. We continue to have technology needs and continue with our facility repair, maintenance, and capital needs. What I've talked to you up to this point is basically our basic operating budget, but something that I just need to put out into the forefront, we also have grant funds of approximately $30 million. What's in the President's proposed budget is to maintain level funding for our Title I, our special ed and Carl Perkins programs. And even though he said at the 2018 level, we saw decreases in our Title I funding and I believe special ed funding for this current year as well. And then he's also proposing to eliminate our Title II funds, which was the former teacher principal training grant. That proposal is to eliminate those funds and then also to eliminate our Title IV grant that ironically we just got this year that he's proposing to eliminate for next year. So the impact on what may come out of the federal program will be the impact to the grant funds that we will be receiving next year. So timelines and next steps. Tonight, we are having our first public hearing on the superintendent's proposed budget. Next week, we will have the second public hearing on the proposed budget with the hopes of the school board adopting the budget on next Wednesday, March the 21st. Our budget is due to City Council by law, April 1. The city is planning to hold a public hearing on their budget on April the 18th, and the City Council plans to appropriate school funding to us on May 22nd. One thing I would like to say that I didn't at the beginning is, as you know, we do not have a budget for the state of Virginia. The General Assembly closed and we did not, without a complete budget. And the latest we have is that the governor is going to call a special session on April the 11th to determine what our funding will be. So as soon as we get that information, then we will make whatever necessary adjustments based on state funding to support our budget. So that basically is in a nutshell of what was included high level in the superintendent's budget. Thank you.
So if you give us a moment, we're going to ask the school board if they would come up to the table. We're going to raise the screen and proceed with the public hearing. And while that's taking place, I just want to reemphasize the presentation that you received. There are hundreds of pages behind that presentation, and probably 4 to 6 hours of discussion have already taken place with the board and the superintendent. So I just want to reemphasize again that you can go on YouTube or on the North Public Schools website, get access to those videos, and also under the budget section of the website, you can go and you can download the entire superintendent's budget proposal, which is the same thing that the school board has and that we've been reviewing. So at this time, if the school board would take a seat and if we can raise the screen, then I'll come back and we'll start the public hearing piece.
Stay up here? Yeah, we need to. I gotta get behind you.
So we apologize for being so far away, but with the screen, we had to set the table back. But in any event, what we're going to do is Mr. Butts will call your name. You can come to the microphone that's in the center. You'll have 3 minutes to offer whatever comments you would like to offer regarding the superintendent's proposed budget or the budget in general. You'll hear a bell where Mr. Butts will let you know that your 3 minutes are up. If you're in the middle of a statement, we would ask if you would wind up. I think we probably have 30 people at least who have signed up to speak, so we want to make sure that we give an opportunity for everyone to be heard. With that, Mr. Butts, if you would call the first couple of names.
Yes, sir. So as indicated, we have some 26 speakers who have signed up thus far. The first being Ms. Peggy Scott, to be followed by Mr. Phillip Hawkins Jr.
Don't start my 3 minutes yet. I would first like to thank the school board members that came to the Reflections event Monday night. I'm sorry you got caught in the snow. We didn't have it planned that way, but the children were very excited that y'all were there and showing your support, and I do thank you for that. I am speaking tonight on behalf of nurses and guidance counselors. Surrounding districts have nurses on call or subs like teachers. We do not. Our nurses are called on a weekly basis or twice weekly basis to cover other schools when their nurse is absent. This puts a hardship and extra work on underpaid office staff when they have to stop their work to be a nurse for the day. We have 9 schools with only part-time counselors. The sharing of counselors was made according to a needs assessment that was done, but it has never been shared with the parents or the counselors. This should not be a secret document. What data was used to determine which schools need additional counseling support and which schools need less? Who decides, and what is the supporting evidence that shows that the needs of military children who experience the loss of a parent while deployed, the loss of friends due to transfers, are less important than the needs of students living in poverty? We have schools under the SOQ of 500 students that have counselors 5 days a week, plus an additional counselor 1 day a week. Schools such as Lindenwood and Norview Elementary have only part-time ones. Are their students' needs being met? What is the effectiveness of this current plan, and how is it being measured? These decisions have a profound effect on our students. Surrounding districts have 5-day counselors, no splitting of duties among schools. What do they know that we don't know? What are the chances that we would lose some of our good, dedicated counselors to these surrounding school districts that pay more and don't split their time between several schools? Are we willing to take those chances? Northern Virginia seems to be the trendsetters in this state and are following the ACE program, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. When will we join the trendsetters? I would hope that some of you watched the 60 Minutes report last Sunday about ACE. The problems that affect students are emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, the loss of a parent, domestic violence, growing up in a household with alcohol or drug abuse, mental illness, or an incarcerated family member. Counselors deal with this on a daily basis. Personal and emotional social skills are most important in the early years. We need to be more aware that these early childhood traumas change the brain and impacts 1 out of every 5 children. More support is needed to mobilize resilience and recovery so as not to stunt foundational development when we see children act out because of problems. With what is going on in our world right now, we need more support for mental health and safety issues, not less. Academics suffer when we ignore the problems right under our nose, and I would like all of the counselors that agree with this to please stand up. Thank you for your show of support.
Good evening. School Board Chair, Mr. Jordan, Vice Chair, Dr. Noel Gabriel, members of the Norfolk School Board, Superintendent Dr. Boone, and guests here from Norfolk Public Schools in the City of Norfolk. My name is Phillip Hawkins Jr., and I am the President of the Education Association of Norfolk, the EAN. I am a proud pre-kindergarten 3 early childhood educator in the Norfolk Public School System at the P.B. Young Senior Elementary School, where fluency is music to our ears. Ears represents that we teach reading fluency with expression, accuracy, rate, and smoothness. I have 20 years of teaching experience and leadership experience in Norfolk Public Schools. And tonight I'm here to speak at this public hearing to express that I'm very concerned that while this proposed budget attempts to focus on the critical areas of schools that hinder our overall success, I, along with many colleagues and students and parents and fellow community members, feel that the amount of money requested is still not enough to keep Norfolk from falling further behind. And tonight we have many people who are wearing red to support public education in Norfolk. If you would please stand tonight if you are wearing red for public ed, no matter what organization you represent. This is only a small portion of the many educators and community members who agree that we need to stand up and have our collective voices heard. Thank you so much today. As we saw our students walk out nationally for the walkout, they were standing up. They were learning how to use their voice on an issue important to them in their schools. So tonight I'm asking each and every one of you to have courage to stand up and to ask for the budget that we need to receive in Norfolk. Tonight I'm asking for the school board of the city of Norfolk to request for a $12 million increase, not $6 million. We need to double that because we have to catch up. We are years behind when we look at the years of budgets that we have not fully funded our schools at the local level. We know what the state is not doing, but we cannot wait for the state of Virginia to do what is right for our children right here in our city. So with that, first and foremost, I would like to ask for an 8% raise, not 3%. And that's across all employee school groups. That would include teachers, all paraprofessionals to bring them up to a living wage of $18 to $20 per hour, full and part-time staff. That would include our cafeteria workers, our custodial staff, our support staff, as mentioned in the budget. We need to make sure we can attract and retain them because guess what? We've already seen the mass exodus. They are leaving. And if we don't do something now to stop the bleeding next year, we're not going to have a workforce because we are working to the bone. When I say we're working to the bone, no one can get sick. But we know we have to take care of ourselves so we can be there to support our children. Now, I will send my full statement to you that will include details of those areas that I would like to ask for, but I know that there are some funding solutions that we are asking the city to help support with the revenue sharing model and also tax revenue that we can receive from the courthouse system like they did to do that project and also the Hotel Maine in Norfolk. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Danielle Rosso, followed by Ms. Helen Brown. Again, that's Danielle Rosso, followed by Ms. Helen Brown. Rosso? Rosso. Okay, your name, please.
Good evening, Dr. Boone, Chairman Jordan, and members of the school board. I want to thank you first for your service to the community and the students of Norfolk. My name is Danielle Rosso, and I've been an elementary school counselor in Norfolk for 20 years. I come to you tonight to ask that there is funding to ensure that every school in Norfolk has one counselor in its building every day of the week, and that schools with over 500 students have additional counseling support to meet the Virginia standards of quality. In the 20 years I've been in Norfolk, I have been in different parts of this. Been in schools in different parts of the city. I've been in Roberts Park, Ocean Air Elementary, Bayview Elementary, Tanners Creek Elementary, Terrellton, and St. Helena. I understand the diverse needs of the students in Norfolk. I cannot say that one population is more needy than another, just that the needs are different. I can say that every school needs a counselor in its building 5 days a week. And this is true at every level, elementary, middle, and high school. Due to budget cuts last year, there are 9 schools that do not have a counselor in the building every day. I am in one of those schools. I go to another school 1 day a week. So I come to you tonight to advocate for my students and parents. At this time, when schools and communities are struggling with how to keep our kids safe, experts are calling for more mental health services in schools. And we're not doing that in Norfolk, and that worries me. So I advocate for my students and my parents. Don't think I just advocate to you. I went to Richmond on January 10th for the Virginia School Counselors Legislative Day, and I spoke with lawmakers about the need to fund the 1 to 250 counselor-to-student ratio that the American School Counseling Association recommends in elementary, middle, and high school. I advocate for my students and my parents because, in the words of Frederick Douglass, it is easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. I work every day in my school to help build strong children. I need to be in my building every day to build relationships with my students and my parents. A couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday with Read Across America. I read my son's favorite book, The Lorax, to 2 classes. The quote that sticks with me is that unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. The folks you see dressed in red care a whole awful lot. Their parents, their counselors, and their community members. They are wearing red to support school counselors because we are the heart of the school. We want to know that you care a whole awful lot about children's mental health. So much so that you will find a way to ensure that every elementary school has a counselor in the building 5 days a week, and those with enrollment over 500 have additional support to meet the standards of quality. They want to see Norfolk's theory of action, that Norfolk Public School students will develop their individual potential, maximize skills for lifelong learning, and successfully contribute to a global society because they will have school counselors that will be available in schools every day to intentionally facilitate an environment that supports exemplary and innovative teaching and learning opportunities in every school, in every classroom, every day, for every student, no exceptions. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. Boone. The Norfolk Commission for Persons with Disabilities asks why state and federal dollars that are earmarked to contracted vendors are paid before students with disabilities are identified for placement. Our commission recommends that the Norfolk Public Schools set aside money in the budget to disperse on an as-needed basis to support the access to education to all students with disabilities. The Norfolk Commission for Persons with Disabilities is aware that there continues to be a communication issue between Norfolk Public Schools and the families of students that are disabled. Our commission recommends that there be funding set aside for a position tasked with creating communication, connections, dialogue, and interaction between parents, the parents of those whose children receive special education services, Norfolk Public Schools, and the Norfolk School Board. This inability for parents to communicate is still a problem, and although you do not want to acknowledge, there are still parents out there who are fearful of making statements to the members of the school board, and especially the Department of Special Education, because they feel retaliation on their child. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Christine Smith, followed by Teresa Joyner.
Good evening, Dr. Boone, Chairman Jordan, and the other school board members. I understand that this is a high-level brief, and I'd like to bring your attention to page 8 and page 26, where the expenditures are. And it's clear, the budget is very clear, easy to read. and it's clear that 85% of the expenditures go towards compensation and benefits. As a user of this information, I'd like to see the other costs broken out by your higher level other costs categories, because it would provide more information in terms of how the monies are being allocated from one year to the next in those expenses. What I see here is this is more than likely expenses like transportation, operation and maintenance, facilities and technology, but it would tie my attention back to the priorities on page 6, I believe it is. I was trying to tie it back to that. Give me a second here. Yes. No, not page 6, I'm sorry. I lost my page, but where the list of priorities are. And it talks about facilities, it talks about technology, and I'm certain that that's included in this other cost. And even though this is a high-level brief, it'll be great to see that kind of information from a bird's eye view, what's taking place.
I would like my who the concerned citizens to stand and remain standing. Good evening. I am Teresa Winfield Joyner. As a member of the Boogity Washington class of 1968, the concerned citizens and the community, I would like to address the board with questions we all have concerning your plans for the future of our history. It seems that Boogity is earmarked to have a triple curriculum starting in September 2018. One, the Career and Technology Education School, known as the CTE School, the Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math School, known as the STEAM School, and Adult Education Services Workforce Development Programs, and that's the Evening School. My questions are, have you met with the community to explain these curriculums, get opinions and input, as well as advertise to generate student interest to apply for admission to these academies and programs? 2, is there a line item in the budget to fund such aggressive technology and savvy curriculums? Have the partnerships been formed and commitments been made for all the academies and programs, such as business and industry partners, for the collaboration, support, mentoring, training, and internships needed for the CTE school and the adult education program? Also, partnerships with colleges and universities that are needed for dual enrollment and for medical and science components. Are funds available to upgrade the labs and equipment to accommodate first-class engineering, design, arts, and math programs? And what about the faculty? Will there be 3 principals, one for CTE, one for STEAM, and one for the Adult Ed Force Development Program? What will the roles be for the proposed 3 teachers that have been hired or will be hired? In which program will they be assigned? Will a whole new faculty be hired for evening school? And finally, regardless of the academic or facilities changes, do you plan to forever preserve the name Boogity Washington High School? Each time we all meet, there are so many questions and so few answers. However, this time the board may be moving too fast to even have answers. I need you to prove that that thought is wrong. All eyes are watching what you do and don't do, and ears are listening to what you say and don't say. We are taxpayers, we are voters, and we hold you accountable for your successes and failures. Dear board, you have been entrusted with our students' education and the preservation of our glorious, magnificent, and historic Boogity Washington High School. For these reasons, we want answers, actions, and results. And for these reasons, In the words of the Terminator, we will be back.
Our next speaker is Cecile Myrick, to be followed by Glennis Mason.
Good evening, Dr. Boone, members of the board, everyone in the audience, including my group, the Concerned Citizens for Boogity. I am an alumni also in the Boogity Washington class of 61. My cohort covered most of what I wanted to say, but I want to go back to the fact that we are making all these preparations for high school. What is being done to make sure that when the kids reach the ones entering elementary school and when they reach middle school and begin to enter Boogity, there are either the other high schools, will they be able to read and do the work that's called of them? I've interacted recently with quite a few young people in the elementary school system, and they seem to be reading from memory. And I know for a fact, I taught my children and my grandchildren read phonetically, and without being able to attack words. What good is reading from the memory if your mind can't retain it? Most of the work in school now, math problems are word. Everything is words just about. And if kids can't attack words, then they don't know the meaning of the words, so how are they to proceed and move forward from elementary to middle school to even be able to go to these glorious high schools that all these programs that you have planned for the high schools in the future? So I'm here to speak for those kids today that don't read, can't read. What are your plans? Do we have summer programs set up to help those kids to advance during the summer when there's not enough time allotted in the day in the classroom for the teacher to do all her job effectively? Just what is being done to help those kids to get on track and stay on track so that they'll be ready for all these high pollutant schools that you're looking forward to in the high schools that probably won't be able to hold the kids because most of them will probably have dropped out by the time they reach high school. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Glennis Winfield Mason, and I am the PTA president at Boogity Washington High School. I applaud each of you for the work you do to ensure that all of our schools receive the support they need in order to educate our children. My questions to you are as follows. Currently, Boogity Washington is the School of the Arts. Will this change, and if so, what funding will be provided for transitioning to the new school format? Currently, the school is lacking the necessary equipment needed in order to provide students the opportunity to explore and excel in the area of the arts they desire to pursue. Therefore, next year, will the school receive the funding required to adequately support the curriculum and programs that will be offered at Boogity? The St. Paul Project, which encompasses communities from which many of our students reside, has the potential to be implemented beginning in the fall of 2018. How will this project affect the zoning boundaries, transportation, and distribution of funds for school maintenance and operation at Boogity? Currently, the school board has a student representative, if I'm correct, who provides input from a student's perspective. Has the board considered having a parent on the board to provide input from a parent's perspective on funding and other various important issues? Funds are allocated to address academic support programs, attendance, bullying. I meant to say what funds will be allocated to address academic support programs, attendance, bullying, and school safety for all of our schools. In conclusion, I invite each of you to attend our April PTA meeting. A written invitation will be sent to each of you. Will PTA members and Boogity Washington High School supporters please stand at this time? Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Vivian Hester, to be followed by Ms. Pamela Bell.
Good Good evening, everyone. Dr. Boone, Mr. Jordan, and members of the board. I'm here speaking on behalf of the concerned citizens of Boogity Washington High School. I am currently the chair of this wonderful organization, and I just want to give you a little bit of background. We are people who live, who have worked, and support the city of Norfolk. We love the city of Norfolk. We are very much concerned, however, with the students and the community involvement. Now, in many cases, we hear that the community is not involved, the community is not speaking up. Well, we're here. And on many occasions, I have come to this mic and to other meetings, and I have offered our support, and we still offer our support. Until we are able to go into the schools, communicate with the children, see the staff, see what's going on, then we are blind. You have to answer some questions that will help the students. And some of the questions that we have come up with is, we're getting ready for a turnaround at Boogity Washington High School. The community has not been involved in that. The community does not know what it's all about, but yet you expect children to sign up for programs that they have no idea about. These programs are proposing to add 3 new teachers that we really have no idea what they're going to do other than art. Are they going to do graphic arts? Are they going to do design? I think what we're really asking you for is some specifics. It is, the budget is there, but the budget tells us nothing. When the community looks at your budget, they see broad strokes. We are ready to look at the specifics so that we can help you avoid any problems and any bad publicity that could come later. We're in this together. We're not here to be adversaries, but we are not going to allow budgets to go and Boogity Washington and our feeder schools not get what they need. We have seen over the years that the feeder schools and Boogity Washington High School have not been addressed in an effective manner, and we are ready for this to be halted. And you who are on the board serving the entire city of Norfolk, we expect great things from you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Bell. I have been a bus attendant since school year of September 2009 until the present. My question tonight is, the school board have approved a pay raise for the bus driver. So why can the bus attendants receive a pay raise? It is mental and physical strain on our health. We have to assist with the wheelchairs, help lift the children in their car seats, hook the children into their safety vests, make sure the children remain seated and calm. We have to repeat the process in reverse order once we arrive at the school 2 to 3 times a day. We deserve a pay raise. We are the lowest paid attendants compared to the 7 cities with no contracts. Example, we as the bus attendants only get paid $8.34 per hour. Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Newport News, and Portsmouth, ranging from $9.72 to $10.66 per hour. We have no retirement plan, no 401k, no contracts. So on the behalf of Norfolk bus attendants, we request that the school board consider a pay raise for the bus attendants, for this is the children's limousine ride to and from school.
Our next presenters will be Larry Harris, to be followed by Roberto Lovick.
Good evening, Dr. Boone, Chairman Rodney Jordan, and distinguished board members. My name is Larry Harris. I'm a lifelong resident of Norfolk. I'm alumnus of Boogity Washington High School, and I retired from the city of Norfolk with 32 years of service. I read an article, if y'all noticed last Saturday, in the Virginia Pilot, and I noticed the headline says, State of City Annual Address Coming Soon to Norfolk, Change. A new hotel, downtown tower, a Ferris wheel, more public beach in Ocean View, and buying some public property in Ocean View. After reading this article, I surely do not see a problem with this council giving the school board money to fund a budget feasible to help our school system strive and meet those underfunded needs. But as an alumnus of Boogity, I have some concerns. Our auditorium at Boogity Washington High School has seating that don't have numbers. We got light fixtures in the auditorium that need repair or need to be replaced. And the biggest problem is mold in the building. That is a very serious health issue. All these concerns at Boogity Washington High School have been confirmed and documented. If the city has money to spend on all these projects, then I surely do not see a problem with the council giving the board money to fund a budget feasible to help our school system. I am asking in this budget year to please address our concerns of my alma mater. And on behalf of Dr. Vivian Hester, President of the Concerned Citizen, will all members please stand? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hester, Mr. Jordan, and the school board. My name is Roberto Lovick, and I'm a member of Concerned Citizens, 1971 graduate of Boogity Washington High School. And I'm here to talk about the athletic conditions of the school. One, tennis courts. They got to travel to Northside to practice and play all games. Tennis courts has been taken offline since 2014 due to the amount of body-sized holes all over the tennis courts. Lights around the tennis courts are not working. All the copper has been taken out of the pole and never replaced. The back area of the school completely dark at night. Portable tennis sets for practice when the weather's bad are not there. Volleyball and basketball, new bleachers in the gym, volleyball poles and netting, cheerleaders, cheer mats. Cheerleaders are currently using old wrestling mats for practice. There are two totally different mats, one before competition, and we pay to use a gym with the proper mats. Mascot suits for the alma mater. Wrestling, need wrestling match. Softballs, dugouts need to be built. We are currently out of compliance with Title IX. Softball currently playing all the home games at the Azalea Gardens due to no dugouts. Baseball field is not in regulations, entirely too small. Currently, baseball travel to Azalea Garden for all baseball for home games. Golf, 4 male golf balls and clubs. Females, 2 female golf bags and clubs. And 6 golf bags, golf course. Track and field, polyurethane tracks cannot host any home games due to the old asphalt tracks we have. Soccer, boys soccer currently uses football fields for games. Don't allow football fields to get a break all year. We don't have enough space on our campus to hold our athletic fields needed. Girls' soccer field is where the field hockey is played. no lights, no one set, bleachers for all the fans. And if all the members of concerned citizens stand on this one.
You're tired of standing, just wave, right?
Now we have Ms. Shirley Reeder, to be followed by Mr. Ian Mitchell.
I'll make this lower. Good. Good evening, Dr. Boone, Mr. Jordan, School Board. I'm Shirley Confino Reeder, the Chair of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities in Norfolk. We're here today for several reasons. I'm going to talk about two issues. The Norfolk Commission for Persons with Disabilities questions why an attorney from the city attorney's office represents the school board when parents of students with disabilities have a dispute on how educational services are being provided in the schools. Our commission recommends that money be set aside in the coming year budget to hire independent legal counsel who do not represent nor have ever represented the city attorney's office of the city of Norfolk to resolve special education issues. Number two, the Norfolk Commission for Persons with Disabilities understands for as long as at least 5 years or more, the annual Special Education Performance Report by the Virginia Department of Education shows that our students with disabilities are not meeting many of the standards set by the state or federal government, including crucial indicators about graduation and dropping out. We know that Norfolk Public Schools is currently undergoing an extensive on-site, multi-site compliance audit conducted by a large team of the Virginia Department of Education specialists. Our commission recommends that money be budgeted to provide additional training for instructional staff and building administrators to improve the outcomes of our students with disabilities, and thus improving the special education reports for next year and beyond. I would like to reiterate what Ms. Brown said. We would like to set aside money from the budget to disperse on an as-needed basis to support the access of education for our students with disabilities, rather than having special slots, contracted slots. And we recommend that funding be set aside for position tasks for creating communication connections, dialogue and interaction between parents whose children receive special education services, Norfolk Public Schools, and the school board. Thank you.
I'll try to keep it the same so I know I'm the tall one here. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak this evening. I know that your positions have a lot of difficult decisions, and we thank the board members for allowing us the opportunity to bring forward some of the things that were important to us. Some of the things I'd like to mention, speak about, is the concern I have about the city of Norfolk and the school systems of why we aren't supporting our children through the effort and use of the school counselors as they are in neighboring cities. The counselors are the ones that are most trained and available and suited to help our children with the needs and social and development skills, as well as methods of them effectively facing and progressing through some of the unique trials they have. Now, I speak this evening as a father of two sons from a military family. Last year, one of my sons was chosen to be one of the participants in the Art of the Military Child event that was held at MacArthur Mall. And we had an opportunity to enjoy that. And there were moments where, during the evening's festivities, it was mentioned of how important the unique trials that the military children in our area face, and how the city of Norfolk opens their arms to those and whatnot. And I find that it's interesting that funding that is available and with budget changes or proposed things to be used, why things such as counselors being shared in schools in some areas, especially the school where my kids attend at Terrellton Elementary, it concerns me. One of the things that, you know, I'm most concerned about is that in the last year, my wife was deployed for 8 months, and so I was here trying to support my family and having my sons available only to me. And there are times where they would have occurrences and effects that range into their emotions and manifest in all children, sometimes in the school atmosphere, and a lot of times only in the school atmosphere. And it would concern me greatly that the counselors who are the ones who are most effectively suited to help them get back on task are going to be unavailable. Just recently, for an example, one of my sons had a moment of kind of a panic attack, and he was only calmed by the ability of the school counselor to help him talk through his moment and get him back on task. And I wonder, and I shudder to think of the schools that don't have counselors regularly or have to share them, what happens to the children at those times that need those moments of help when a teacher is expected to stop what they're doing for an entire class and to help each child individually when it's just not possible. And most of them are not suitably trained to do so. And so what I would like to advocate for is that when you think of the budget and the things that are needed, it is absolutely necessary for support through the school counselors, through some of the other support members, the parent liaisons and whatnot, that these people are being kept in the area because we need them. We need them very badly, and our children need them most of all. Because if we plan to develop the rising generation to help us lead and to set a standard for the Norfolk school system as well as Norfolk City, we need to support them. Thank you. Oh, sorry. My name is Ian Mitchell. Sorry, my apologies. And I'm at Terrellton Elementary.
So now we have Ms. Nancy Estepa to be followed by Malcolm Avery.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Estepa. I'm the math specialist at PB Young Elementary School. We service students and families from Young's Terrace and Tidewater Parks neighborhoods. At this time, I would like to ask my PB Young family to stand and remain standing as a sign of solidarity. I am up here today because I am in desperate need of clarification. From everyone, we hear that we are a struggling or failing school, yet when I reviewed the proposed at-a-glance budget, I did not see our school listed as a hard-to-staff school worthy of any additional support. We currently have 6 long-term subs in our building. We are about to have 7 because a teacher is leaving, and by the end of the year, we are losing at least 2 more. We started the year off without teachers in multiple classrooms. The first 2 months of school, myself and members of the leadership team taught the classrooms with no teachers for months before long-term subs ever showed up. Then we stayed to train them. Subs don't show up to our school when a teacher is out, so a member of the leadership team must cover or the class must be split. At least one class is split daily. Why is this acceptable? Why would teachers stay at a high-need school for $1,000 more when they can switch districts and make $2,500 to $3,500 more? Why are we worth less in a district that is more difficult to service? Many of our students struggle with emotional and mental health issues. Being a K-2 only school, we have just as many students who are currently being identified as needing extra support as we have students who are identified and receive services. Are we supposed to ignore the students who have not been identified yet? Do they not deserve the support because it's not in writing yet? Do any other schools have to deal with the same proportion of unidentified students as our K-2 school? If you look at other districts, the needier schools have more resources. I know this is not just an MPS problem, but why can Norfolk find the money to do everything but support our children? Why is equity just a word we throw around but don't actually have the funds to put into practice? Why are there not enough human resources in our schools to support our students? Let me give you some numbers from my 2nd grade quarter 2 math district benchmark test. These are the percent proficiency for my classes. 88.9% proficient, 94.7% proficient, 80% proficient, 84.2% proficient. These are all substantially higher than the district average. These are our teachers. They are amazing and they are well trained. Equally amazing is my inclusion teacher, whose proficiency score was 11.8% because she had such severe mental and emotional needs in her classroom that so much instructional time is dedicated to making sure her students feel safe. 5.6% and 33.3% are from my 2 long-term subs. They have not had the training my teachers have had, but are doing the best that they can. If we could retain staff, what do you think our school-wide data would look like? Why doesn't Norfolk invest in our babies the way we would invest in our own children? Why do we wait to do anything until our scores are dismal? Why is it okay to sacrifice the education of our children while we figure out how to fully staff our schools? I just have so many questions. Please help me understand why my teachers, my administrators, and my kids are not worth investing in.
Dr. Boone, Mr. Jordan, and members of the school board. My name is Malcolm, without the X, Avery. I just want you to know that and feel good about that. I'm a product of Norfolk Public Schools, from elementary school, Smallwood Elementary School in Lambert's Point, J. Cox Junior High School, Marshall Avenue, Booker T. Washington High School, Norfolk, Virginia. I went back to teach as a head coach, as a physical education teacher. I later moved on to Ruffner as a department chairman, went to Jaycox as the department chairman, and I'm here standing now as a retired athletic director, Hampton University basketball coach, as well as a Booker T. Washington High School basketball coach. But this is not about me. This is about the budget that seemingly is in place or will be in place for September. In September, there are 3 programs, or 3 possible programs that are being asked for or will be initiated at Booker T. Washington. Will Booker T. Washington have 3 administrators? Will Booker T. Washington have the required teachers to teach those students in those programs and have the resources and equipment that's necessary? So I'm here advocating for a budget that ought to be steered toward what the needs are at Booker T. Washington High School, as well as all of the other things that my colleagues have brought to your attention, the tennis courts. And I have everything that I think needs to be talked about in writing. So I'm going to submit this again, and if I have to come back next week, we will be back, and not as the Terminator, but as a Booker T. Washington High School. Thank you.
Now we have Ms. Jacqueline Scott to be followed by Carter Mellon or Meline. Again, that's Jacqueline Scott. Oh, that's you? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Scott, and I am a resident of Norfolk. I'm also a member of the class of 1966 for Booker T. Washington High School, and by now I'm sure all of you know how many of us are in the audience. Per the proposed budget, Booker T. Washington is to be a career technology institute of learning. That is my title. It is hoped that there is a clear, concise plan in place that once the budget is approved, there will not be a drawn-out delay of implementation. Additionally, it is hoped that a plan for success will include establishing community partnerships, i.e. Norfolk State University's Information and Technology program, located at the intersection of Park Avenue and Brambleton Avenue, and their acclaimed theater arts program located on Corporal Avenue. All of this is less than 1 mile from Boogity Washington High School. Those are my prepared remarks. These are my unprepared remarks after listening to all the persons who came before me, especially those employed by the Norfolk Public School System. I am a citizen of Norfolk. I support education. If it is the will of city government that taxes go up, then that is what has to happen. Because I am a senior citizen, so I am concerned about the citizens that we are preparing to provide care and supervision for our seniors. Consequently, it's no brainer that the educators have to have higher salaries. Education in this country should be regarded as one of the highest jobs in our states, in our country. And this is disjointed because I said it's unprepared. But what I'm saying is simply this. If we say that we value educators, if we say we value our children, then you have to pay for it. If you are going to pay $2,000 for a handbag, then you really should be prepared to take that $2,000 and pay it to your educational program, because guess what? That $2,000 handbag will do you no good when you're in an assisted living facility. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Hello, good evening. My name is Carter Moline, and I am the parent of a 14-year-old Norfolk resident child with autism. I have been in a 22-month dispute with the Norfolk Public Schools regarding private day placement. This dispute has cost me tens of thousands of dollars. Private day placement is the term for publicly funded school, private school, for those children with disabilities which require this placement. The contracting for these children is done by the Norfolk City Attorney's Office. The payments are made by the City of Norfolk. Based on my current information, I believe the following is true. Number one, the City of Norfolk mandates that this private school funding be subjected to a request for proposals process, which mandates that private schools and companies bid on the rights to these funds, including to the rights of the children that accompany those funds. Those two companies that have the current winning bids for these funds enrolled Norfolk private day placement students in the following ratios: 29 of the 30 children in the school year ending June 2016, 42 of the 43 children in the school year ending June 2017, 35 of the 36 children enrolled in the school year ending June 2018. This data makes it painfully clear that the Norfolk Public Schools IEP teams are systemically placing children in schools which were prior contracted by the city and are systemically rejecting schools which are not contracted by the city. As the Norfolk City Council has so far fully supported this wrongful process, I am recommending the two following budget actions. Number one, the Special Education Department needs to acquire funds to hire an attorney who is not in any way associated with the Norfolk City Attorney's Office, so as to eliminate bias and conflict of interest in IEP meetings. Preferably, the new hire will be a person capable of resolving conflict and preventing discord and hostility. Number two, the Norfolk Public Schools need to request the total funds for private day placement and request those said funds from the city as unencumbered to contracted vendors. This will likely cause the City Council to reject state funds and levy additional taxes, but I believe this is the only way to remove improper city contracting from the IEP process, as this will permit the Norfolk Public Schools to contract independently of the city attorney's office. More description on this wrongful system can be found in the Norfolk Interagency Consortium Audit dated June 2nd, 2017, which is available on the internet. And since I still have a couple seconds, I just want to tell you that a free, appropriate public education does not involve parents that hire advocates and parents that hire lawyers and parents that use their tax dollars to fund city lawyers, which oppose them when they fight for their child. Thank you.
We now have Mr. Nate Kinnison to be followed by Ms. Janice McKee.
Good evening. My name is Nate Kinnison. I'm a public elementary school teacher and a parent of 5 children in Norfolk Public Schools. I received the budget as a citizen only a week ago. The final budget legally has to be submitted by April 1st. That really doesn't give the public enough time with the school board for healthy discourse about the needs, the cuts, and the prioritization of programs as represented by the budget. And as a parent, I've received up to 4 calls in a week to be a member of school nutrition services, but we received 1 phone call regarding the public budget hearings tonight and next week as well. After last year's budget cuts, our elementary arts programs are sparsely staffed, and as I said during last year's budget hearing, the sparsity of our resource staff limits access, equity, and opportunity for those students in greatest socioeconomic distress. On top of that, we're hiring behavior specialists when they're new employees right after a year where we cut guidance counselors. Our class sizes continue to be an issue, with 25 to 26 children in every first grade class at one of our non-Title I schools. This is far beyond the research-supported standard for an effective student-to-teacher ratio. All in all, the funding in this budget is lacking, and I don't think it's anything that you all don't agree with. We know, and it's a hard place to be in to have to decide on that. Attrition was listed in the PowerPoint as a savings, which while it may be a quantitative savings, it's a qualitative loss. Career and technical education expenditure is down by 1.4% in a year where the school division is boasting about bringing career and technical education to the fore. It appears to be another program in name only for Norfolk. And this is after cuts to career and tech were made almost a decade ago that were never restored. We don't have a full-time counselor in all of our schools. The school 2 of my children attend has no math specialist, a part-time reading specialist, 26 kids in first grade classes with no assistants, and I know based on community conversations and dialogues with citizens from all over the city of Norfolk that the problems with staffing cuts and salaries and allocation based on the Virginia standards of low quality instead of educational research are hurting equity in educational services and educational solvency throughout our school division. I fully understand the ins and outs of state funding based on local composite index and enrollment, but our needs are our needs. And this budget presents as a rushed mix of net increases and ill-considered reductions. If we're forced to tighten the proverbial belt as a city, we need to make sure we're not mistakenly tightening around our educational neck. We as a public deserved more time with this document, better communication with the stakeholders, and an open, transparent time for public engagement with the board, with the document in hand. 1 week to approval and 2 weeks to the deadline is not enough. I know we have a lot of needs. I know you know we have a lot of needs. It's not falling on deaf ears. I realize that. But with the current climate of communication with the council, Norfolk Public Schools has to do a better job of engaging and communicating with the public for guidance and, most importantly, the support that you need to make a positive change in Norfolk. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board, and also Dr. Boone, and the other prestigious members. I'm being real sweet, starting off sweet. Anyway, first of all, I'm going right to the point. Number 1, I have issues with students who have disabilities and their disabilities not being addressed, especially children with emotional disabilities. There are programs in some schools, but not in other schools. There are programs that really help children that should be tapped into, that if you did it appropriately, it would not bother your funds. I know that for a fact because we had it at Campostella years ago.
You contracted to an agency, and the agency came in, and they selected the children, or children who the counselors couldn't take care of, and those children, those issues were addressed. Less suspensions, more children in school. You need to also look at using some type of an independent mental health agency to come in to support your schools. But you have to let us in a building first. If you can't come in a building, you can't get it. This building has been built. We don't come in the building. They don't let us in. I'm being nice. We're moving on. What happened to the CTE school at Lake Taylor? First it was at Lake Taylor, and then we moved it to Boogity. Boogity, I saw on the sign, they're accredited. Their accreditation is in, full. Now, you get ready to throw two other things into this pot with these young people who have just arrived, and now you want them to exceed above and beyond who you struggle to get them where they're at right now. Something's wrong with that picture, especially with a little bit of money, because you don't have a whole lot of money based on this budget that I just sat here and read. Teachers. There are so many schools in Norfolk Public Schools that has substitute teachers. Can't convince me that you haven't gone almost beyond your budget. See, because, you know, I'm a thinker, and I realize that when you pay substitutes, and you have to then pay the teacher that's out as well, then that's 2 times of money dipping into a classroom. Then you have conditions of schools. We have one school that has really, really bad bed bugs. And so I didn't believe it, so I went and visited. They let me come in because when I put my name in the computer, my name popped up so I can go in. I was surprised. We need to address those issues. But you can't get it when you have funds that need to be coming into a school or funds that need to be requested from other places, and the amount that you're asking for is really not enough money. Next thing, school nurses. If you have a school that has over 500 children in it, you need a nurse. And if you don't have a nurse, you at least need a nursing assistant that can talk to the nurse on the phone so that the nurse can give her directions about where she needs to go. Miss McKee, how you know? Because I'm a nurse. Guess what I taught? Nursing assistants and medical assistants. Cheaper, you're not covering your kids. And the other thing that's really, really, really saddening me is that in this new budget that you're proposing, how many teachers are really going to get a raise? That becomes the question. I've listened to everybody, all these teachers talk. Are they really going to get a raise? So y'all know I'm a chat. So I just want you all to kind of go back to the table a little bit. I'm being nice tonight because I only had 3 minutes.
We now have Ms. Jessica Huntoon to be followed by Ms. Vicky Greco. Again, Jessica Huntoon, followed by Vicky Greco.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Boone, and senior administrators. My name is Jessica Huntoon, and tonight I am speaking to you on behalf of the Gifted Education and Advisory Committee. As a proud NPS parent, as a proud teacher, and as the chair of the Gifted Education Advisory Committee, I would like to share that the GEAC is tasked with making recommendations in regards to the needs of our gifted and high ability learners, K through 12, in relation to our local gifted plan. As noted in the most recent letter to the board, much of our fall discussion was around our identification practices and potential adjustments. I hope you will take the time to review and work with us to discuss the recommendations we have made. But the primary request we have made consistently since 2009, and my guess is that that request occurred before that, I started in 2009, is to work towards one gifted resource teacher per school. Currently, 16.3% of NPS students are identified as gifted. I do understand financially the idea is daunting in a time when the budget funding options are limited, but as noted by members of the GEAC, if these recommendations continue to be made and go unanswered, or as in the past few years, staff is listed to be cut from the department, what role does the GEAC serve? So my request is simple, just one. Please show a good faith effort to maintain and increase support for rigorous education in our buildings by adding just one more GRT. Just one can increase the amount of time GRTs can spend with students and staff. Just one can provide more time with our underserved populations. Just one can increase the opportunity to engage and support not only the needs of our gifted and high-ability learners, but all children by supporting differentiation. Just one, that just one has been extremely important to myself as a parent this year. To give you reference, when I started GAC meetings, my first child, who is now in 2nd grade, was an infant. For 8 years, I have heard the same request for a 1-to-1 GRT to building ratio. We know it is an educational best practice, no matter the number of identified students in a building, to have a dedicated member working towards rigorous instruction. Just one has been a huge factor for my child this year. That one teacher this year has been one to keep my child engaged during long-term substitutes this school year. That one has sent home a child who tells me more about his school day than his normal laundry list of activities that involve critical thinking and engagement. That one has sent my student home this year with work that I myself as a teacher cannot drag out of him in terms of care and handwriting and accurate detailed responses. I had to double check to make sure he had not brought home another student's work by mistake. That one is assigned to one school and has a full schedule, and I as an educator would love to have her as an instructional coach guiding me in ways to potentially engage my learners after seeing my own child's engagement. Just one. Just one, that is all I personally can hope for. If you look in the budget at the goals seen by the board, we need to make a change in staffing. So I ask that you please review the goals that you have to ensure identification of students, increase student pass advance rates, and increase the percentage of gifted students scoring greater than 3 on advanced placement courses. As the chair of the Gifted Education Advisory Committee, I understand you are trying to create a reasonable budget, but I implore you to have courageous conversations with City Council. As a community member of Ward 2 with potential new council members, it will be my primary focus to know what their plans are for supporting Norfolk Public Schools and you. As the GAC keeps coming back with the same requests, some are tired with the limited results. I can only imagine the superintendent and the school board feel the same about their efforts to keep coming back to the city and getting limited funding. But 8 years later, I'm still here, serving on the GAC and coming back with the hope for growth and change. So please come back again with your courageous goals and courageous conversations for our school system. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Jordan and school board members, Dr. Boone and district leadership team, NPS stakeholders, and fellow supporters of a fully resourced public school system in Norfolk. My name is Vicki Manugo Greco. I'm a public school kid. I'm an NPS graduate of the 1985 class of Lake Taylor. I'm a retired NPS speech therapist, and I'm a proud NPS mom. My 2 high schoolers and their 6th grade brother attend NPS. Today is March 14, 314. Happy Pi Day, everybody. I think it's fitting that we learn more and talk about Dr. Boone's proposed fiscal year 2019 budget number today, because it's another important number to know and realize. It's the largest part of our city's budget and will affect the lives of so many children, families, businesses, and other Norfolk stakeholders for many years to come. The amount of money needed by our schools and the actual funding for every child to be college, career, and service ready seems to be a challenge for our city council leaders to determine and find the common ground needed with our school board and administration about our city's values and the true priorities in community reinvestment. A fully funded school system is my pie in the sky goal. A fully funded school system is the pie in the sky goal of many education advocates in Norfolk. This goal was why I helped found Norfolk Games, growing and investing in Norfolk schools, alongside parents and educators back in 2011 to help raise awareness of state cuts to funding and the harmful effects of cutting resources for our children, teachers, and schools. As suggested by a recent State of the City presentation and another remark made by a council member just Monday night at a Civic League meeting, the goal of a fully funded school system seems to be beyond reach. So it's up to us, the citizens, to support Dr. Boone and our school board leaders to keep pushing for a fully resourced school division, because it is unfortunate for us that city council leaders fail to recognize what we citizens already know. Our public school system helps grow educated and responsible Norfolk citizens. It's the primary economic engine and community reinvestment driver that we all depend on for a brighter shared future. When we invest in our schools, Norfolk gains. When we are able to pay our teachers competitively and support our teachers and staff as the professional educators they are, Norfolk gains. When we ensure all children are able to learn because they have begun their school day with a nutritious breakfast, Norfolk gains. When we make sure we have literacy and numeracy specialists, gifted resource teachers, special educators, and guidance counselors who are each assigned and dedicated to a single school community every school day, Norfolk gains. When we have meaningful professional development for our teachers and staff so they and our students benefit from instructional coaching and professional mentoring, Norfolk gains. When we fully resource and invest in Norfolk Public Schools, Norfolk gains. Thank you.
Our final two speakers are Mr. James Jarman Jr., to be followed by Ms. Jenny Bobby.
So I keep track of this. Good afternoon. My name is James Jarman Jr. My son's name is James Jarman III. I'm a nobody, but I'm a parent that has a kid in Norfolk Public Schools. And deeper than that, I got a kid that's in this ground we sit and stand in. Now, I'm used to being kicked around a little bit, and I'm used to having to wait in line and not being paid attention to. I don't have no problem with that. I'm grown. But when that happens to my child, I take great exception, and I go to war. So I'm gonna keep it budget. I got a couple of suggestions. Norfolk Public Schools, and particularly this one, need monitors, a dean, behavioral, resource, and security officers. There's an old adage that says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You can fix it now or fix it later. Typically later, it costs more. Okay? And the analogy that I would draw to you is this. When you go out riding in your car and your brakes wear down, you get a warning indicator. They start squealing. If you keep driving, you wind up buying brakes, rotors, the whole 9 yards. Way more expensive. We got a problem in Norfolk Public Schools. I could carry you back to Combine, or I could dig in the wound that we just got in Florida. I have a fear every day I pray with my child of him coming home safely. I have a fear of his safety at school. That should not be. Okay? I know anybody on the board is not Houdini, but it's some things we can do. We need security here. We need counselors. We need a lot of things, and we need to stop talking about them and provide them. Now, my suggestion is simple, since I'm gonna try to keep it budget. One of the speakers said what the school board needs is a parent or a citizen, somebody in the real world that can put input in the school board. I'll take that job, okay? I'll take that job for free with no salary. Use the money and help the kids, okay? God takes care of me. Okay, he my provider, he my protection. Last thing I would like to say to you, think about where you would like your kids and your grandkids to go. Would you have them here? I don't think so.
Good evening, Mr. Jordan, Dr. Gabriel, board members, and Dr. Boone. My name is Jenny Bobby, and I have an 18-year-old daughter with autism who attends Maury. Tonight marks my 15th year of making public comment to the Norfolk School Board. Each time I do this, I pray it will be my last, that you will heed my appeal and do what needs to be done for our children. As was discussed at the school board's work session last August, students with disabilities struggle to read at a much higher rate than their peers in general education. According to the International Dyslexia Association, 1/2 of all students who are identified for special education are classified as having a learning disability. About 85% of those students have a primary learning disability in reading and language processing. In fact, students with a specific learning disability comprise the largest category of students receiving special education in most school districts, including Norfolk. I implore the school board to hold Dr. Boone to her word to increase student access to the Wilson Reading Program by earmarking funds for Norfolk Public School staff to become Wilson certified or to hire Wilson certified reading specialists. NPS currently employs one Wilson certified instructor, and we are lucky to have her. Additionally, NPS is the only local school district that does not have a board certified behavior analyst, BCBA for short, on staff to serve Norfolk students with autism experiencing challenging behavior. Instead, NPS relies on uncertified, inexperienced teacher specialists to assist our classroom instructors with behavior management. Clearly, these supposed specialists are not very successful based on the high number of Norfolk students with autism referred outside the district for educational services due to challenging autism-specific behavior. I beseech the school board to divert the money being spent to send students to CSEP and Rivermont to Salaries to hire a BCBA. Our children with autism deserve better than they are getting. They deserve access to disability-related behavioral services that are evidence-based and follow best practices. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we do have one more speaker, Mr. Chairman. That'll be Ms. Debbie Guest.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Boone and members of the school board. I'm here tonight to read a fellow school counselor, Bianca Gregory, could not attend due to a former family commitment. So I'm reading her letter tonight. When I was 14 years old, I was diagnosed with a 25-pound tumor in my stomach. I was in pain, missing school, and was afraid. I ultimately had to have surgery. When I woke up, who was in the room? My school counselor, Mrs. Pay. Mrs. Pay was working with my mom and I on homebound services, finalizing my grades and making sure that my main focus was on healing. I was so relieved. Mrs. Pay influenced my life. She was someone who was there not just about honors classes and high school specialty programs, but also for the scary, happy, and sad moments. You see, school counselors are the life and breath of the school. They do so much behind the scenes so that the schools can flourish. Fast forward to today. This is my 11th year, meaning Bianca Gregory's, at Jaycox as a counselor, and I can say that our children are facing more today than ever before. School counselors are needed so they can make an impact for every child, every day, no exception. I could not attend the meeting tonight, but stand with my fellow school counselors. Please put school counselors back in the schools every single day. We cannot afford to have our schools without a counselor for a day. We want to ensure our students are prepared for the ever-changing world, academically, socially, and emotionally, so that they are college and career ready. School counselors make a world of difference every day. Sincerely, Bianca Gregory. And that's from Bianca. And thank you, and I just want to share with you that there'll be lots more read next week at your board meeting. Thank you.
That concludes our speaker list, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Butts. So again, we thank you for coming out and sharing your comments with us. As you can see, all of us were taking notes, including Dr. Boone. We're going to continue our deliberation and review of the budget. We are scheduled again to meet next week. We'll start off with a work session, which again will be live streamed as well as available and open to the public. And we'll continue our work as a board and a governance team towards submitting the school board's proposed budget to City Council. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we will continue on. Okay, yeah, I'll just reiterate that Dr. Boone asked me to remind everyone that the full budget, as I mentioned earlier, is online. All some 200, 300 pages of it is available online. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we had a work session earlier today prior to this public hearing. That's available online, or will be available online on YouTube as well as on our board doc site. Also, the work session that we had last week, and also just mention that all of our work sessions and meetings are available online. So while the budget process may come up annually, we actually are working towards our budget throughout the year. And so all those videos as well as documents that are associated with our meeting are available online. And if you have any difficulty at all finding them, you can email the board clerk, you can email any of the board members, and we'd be more than happy to share that information with you. So again, we thank you for coming out tonight, and we will continue to work together to make sure that Norfolk Public Schools is what we know it needs to be for our great city of Norfolk. Thank you and good evening.